He used our house as collateral without telling me, and I didn't find out from him. I found out because a cashier at my bank leaned closer to the glass and said, in a voice that was too careful, "Ma'am, are you aware there's a lien on your property?" A lien. That word hit like a cold hand around my throat. It was a bright Wednesday in early spring, the kind of day that makes the world look honest. Sunlight on the sidewalk, people carrying iced coffee like nothing could go wrong. I was there for something boring, a cashier's check. We were renovating the kitchen, new cabinets, new countertops, the kind of upgrade my husband said would increase equity. I remember smiling when I walked in, thinking about tile samples and paint swatches. And then the cashier said lien. My smile froze. "I'm sorry." "What?" I asked. She glanced at her screen, then back at me, like she wasn't sure if she should be the one to say it. "There's a recorded lien," she repeated gently. "It's showing up on the property profile attached to your mortgage account." Property profile. Attached to your mortgage account. My hands went numb around my purse strap. "That's not possible," I said automatically. But the truth is, the moment she said it, my body believed her. Because my husband, Caleb, had been acting strange for months. Not loud strange, quiet strange. The kind that feels like a door closing somewhere in your life, and you can't find which room it's in. I kept my voice steady. "What kind of lien?" I asked. She hesitated. "It looks like it's tied to a business loan," she said. "It lists your home as collateral." Business loan. My stomach dropped. Caleb owned a small logistics company. Not huge, not glamorous. The kind of business that lives and dies on cash flow and promises. But Caleb always told me he kept business and home separate. He always said, "I'd never risk our house. Our house. The one with the blue shutters and the maple tree out front. The one we'd painted ourselves during our first summer married. The one I thought was the safest thing in my life." I swallowed hard. "How much?" I asked. The cashier's eyes flicked down. "I can't see the full terms," she said, "but the lien amount listed is $475,000. For a second, I didn't breathe, because numbers like that don't feel real. They feel like typos. "Can you print it?" I whispered. She shook her head quickly. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't print property records from here, but you can look it up through the county recorder's website." County recorder. The same place where the truth lives, when people lie to your face. I thanked her in a voice that didn't sound like mine, and walked out of the bank with my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the sunlight on the dashboard like it was mocking me. Then I pulled out my phone. County recorder. Search by address. My fingers shook as I typed, and when the results loaded, I felt my blood turn to ice. There it was. A recorded document, deed of trust, commercial, my address, my house, my name, and Caleb's. The date recorded 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks, meaning while I was choosing cabinet handles and trusting my husband, he was signing my home away as security for someone else's money. I clicked the document. The PDF opened, and I stared at the signature line until my eyes burned. Caleb's signature was there, and next to it, a signature that looked like mine, but wasn't. It was close enough to fool a computer, close enough to fool someone glancing quickly, but it wasn't mine. I knew my own hand. I knew the small loop I always make in the L. I knew the way I press harder on the last letter when I'm in a hurry. This signature didn't have those tells. This signature was an imitation. My throat tightened. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the phone down. Because if he forged my signature, then this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't forgetting to tell me. This was deception, premeditated. He didn't just use our house as collateral. He used me. My name is Lena Carter. I was 37 when this happened. I'm an operations manager at a healthcare nonprofit. Organized, risk-aware, the kind of person who keeps receipts in labeled folders and reads contracts all the way to the last line. That's why it still makes me sick to remember the moment I realized the person closest to me could get the most access and do the most damage. Caleb and I had been married 7 years. We met in our late 20s. We built a life. We built routines. And for a long time, I thought home meant stability. But stability is not a feeling. It's paperwork. And the moment someone touches your paperwork without you, everything in your life can tilt. I drove home in a blur and parked in the driveway like I was arriving at someone else's house. The blue shutters looked the same. The maple tree swayed in the breeze. The porch swing creaked softly. Nothing looked different. And that's what terrified me. Because the biggest threats don't change the paint. They change the foundation. Quietly. Caleb's truck wasn't home. He was at a client site, according to his last text. I went inside and walked straight to my home office. I pulled out our mortgage folder, then our closing documents, then our deed. My hands moved fast, like my body already knew this was an emergency. The deed was in both our names. Joint tenants. We'd done it that way because we were married and in love, and people tell you that's what you do. Now I stared at that deed like it was a loaded weapon. Because joint ownership means joint vulnerability. I checked the document again on my laptop, zooming in on the fake signature. Then I did the only thing I could think to do. I called the county recorder's office. A woman answered, cheerful, like my life wasn't falling apart. I kept my voice calm. "I'm looking at a recorded deed of trust on my property," I said. "It appears to contain my signature, but I did not sign it." There was a pause. Her tone changed slightly. "Ma'am," she said, "we record documents as submitted. If you believe a document is fraudulent, you need to speak with an attorney and potentially file a fraud affidavit." A fraud affidavit. The word fraud made my throat tighten. "So you can't remove it?" I asked. "No," she said gently. "Not without a court order." A court order, meaning the system would treat the lie as real until I proved it wasn't. I hung up and stared at my screen. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. Running late. Meeting ran long. Love you. Love you. I stared at those 2 words and felt something inside me go cold and clear. He could type "love you" while my house sat underneath a $500,000 loan I didn't agree to. I didn't text back. Instead, I called an attorney. Not a divorce attorney. Not a general practice friend. A real estate litigation attorney. And because the universe has a strange sense of timing, Daniel Price's office picked up on the first ring. "What's going on?" Daniel asked after I explained the basics. "There's a deed of trust recorded against my home," I said. "Commercial. It looks like my signature is forged." Daniel didn't gasp. He didn't dramatize. He said, "Okay, we move now." "What do I do?" I asked. "First," he said, "do not confront your husband alone. Second, pull every record you can. County docs, any loan notices, bank statements. Third, freeze your credit today." Freeze my credit. I swallowed. "You think he used my identity?" "I think if someone forges a signature on a deed of trust, Daniel said. They're capable of more than one forgery. My stomach turned. Daniel continued. And Lena, we need to find out who the lender is. Because lenders have files, notary logs, copies of IDs, something. Notary logs. My mind flashed to that bank cashier's careful voice. Ma'am, are you aware? No, I hadn't been aware, because Caleb made sure I wasn't. That night, Caleb came home at 9. He walked in with that relaxed smile he used when he wanted the day to feel normal. Hey, he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I stepped back. Not dramatically, just enough that his lips met air. His eyes flicked. What's wrong? He asked. I held up my laptop. Screen open to the recorded document. What is this? I asked quietly. His smile didn't disappear. It tightened. He glanced at the screen like he was seeing it for the first time. Then he did exactly what I expected. He laughed, not a big laugh, a short one. Babe, he said, why are you digging through records? My jaw tightened. Answer the question, I said. His eyes shifted. It's just business, he said. It's temporary. My chest tightened. You used our house as collateral, I said, without telling me. Caleb exhaled like I was exhausting. I didn't want you to worry, he said. I stared at him. Don't, I said softly. Don't say you did this for me. He lifted his hands like he was calming a wild animal. Okay, he said. Fine. Yes, I used the house. But it's not a big deal. The business needed liquidity. And it's not like we're going to lose the house. I felt my voice go steady in a way that surprised me. My signature is on that document, I said. I didn't sign it. His face froze for half a second, just half. But I saw it, a flicker of calculation. Then he shrugged. You must have, he said quickly. Maybe you forgot. We signed so much stuff. I laughed once, sharp. I don't forget signing away our house for $500,000, I said. Caleb's jaw tightened. Lena, he said low, don't turn this into some accusation. You know I'd never hurt you. I stared at him, and in that moment, I realized something that made my skin prickle. He wasn't scared, I knew. He was annoyed, I knew, because he thought he could keep me out of it. He thought the house was a tool he could use without asking. He thought marriage meant permission. I walked past him toward the bedroom. Caleb followed. Where are you going? He asked. To sleep, I said. He stepped in front of me. No, he said. We're talking now. My pulse picked up, but I didn't step back. I'm not talking, I said. I'm documenting. His eyes narrowed. Documenting what? Everything, I said. I watched something change in his face then. Not anger. Fear. Because fear is what happens when someone realizes the version of you they controlled is gone. Caleb tried again, softer. Okay, he said. Look, I can explain. Explain why my signature is forged? I asked. He swallowed. I didn't forge anything, he said. Then who did? I asked. Silence. He looked away, and that silence told me more than any confession. The next morning, while Caleb was in the shower, I opened his laptop. I know how that sounds, but when your home is collateral without consent, privacy becomes a luxury you can't afford. His laptop was still logged into his email. I searched one phrase. Deed of trust. A thread popped up instantly, and when I clicked it, my hands went cold. It wasn't just one email. It was a chain. Caleb, a loan broker, a notary service, and someone with an LLC name I didn't recognize. The subject line, closing package, rush. Rush. Of course, because rushing is how you keep someone from thinking. In the chain, the broker wrote, We need spouse signature. Can you confirm she'll be present? Caleb replied, yes, I'll handle it. I scrolled. A later email from the notary service. Borrower spouse must present ID. Caleb replied, understood. Then one more email, sent late at night, from Caleb. Change of plan. Spouse can't attend. Need alternative. Alternative. My stomach turned. Then came the reply from the broker. Okay. We can proceed with signed docs if notary can verify. Please ensure signatures match. Ensure signatures match. Like forging my name was just a technical detail. I took photos of every email with my phone. Then I printed them. Because screenshots disappear. Paper doesn't. Caleb came into the kitchen with a towel around his neck, cheerful again. Coffee? He asked. I looked at him and realized he had no idea the ground beneath him was about to open. Sure, I said quietly, because sometimes the safest thing you can do is let someone believe you're still the old version of you, while you gather the proof that will end their game. By noon, Daniel had everything: the recorded deed, the emails, the fake signature. He called me back with his voice sharpened into something I liked. We're filing a lawsuit to void the deed of trust, he said. We're filing for injunctive relief, and we're contacting the lender's fraud department. My heart hammered. Will it work? I whispered. It will if the signature is forged, he said, because lenders hate forged collateral. It invalidates their security, and it exposes them. Expose them. That was the key, because Caleb didn't just risk me. He risked them too. 2 days later, the lender called, a man named Mr. Hastings from Risk Resolution. He sounded polite, controlled. Mrs. Carter, he said, we received a complaint alleging your signature was forged on a deed of trust. Can you confirm you did not attend the signing? Yes, I said. I was not present. I did not sign. I did not authorize this loan. He paused. Were you aware of the loan at all? No. Another pause. Okay, he said. We are opening an internal investigation. Investigation. That word felt like a door unlocking, because until then, this had felt like me versus Caleb. Now it was me versus a file. And files can be audited. The lender asked for copies of my ID, asked for handwriting samples, asked for the email chain. Daniel sent everything. Then he did something else. He requested the notary's journal, because notaries are supposed to record every signing. Who was present, what ID was shown, where it happened. If a notary claims I signed, there should be proof. A week later, Daniel called again. His voice was almost satisfied. We got the notary journal, he said. And, I whispered, there's no entry for you, he said. My breath caught. So, it's fake. It's worse, Daniel said. The notary wrote your name, but the ID listed is not yours. Wrong height, wrong birth year. My stomach flipped. They used someone else's ID. They used something, Daniel said, and now the notary is exposed. Exposed. I pictured Caleb's face when the mask finally fell. Then the lender dropped the next bomb. They sent a formal notice, not to me, to Caleb, demanding immediate repayment and warning of referral for fraud. Caleb came home that night with the letter crumpled in his fist. His face was pale. His voice was tight. What did you do? He demanded, like I had set the fire he started. I stayed calm. I told the truth, I said. You went to the lender? He snapped. Are you trying to ruin me? I stared at him. You used our house as collateral, I said, without telling me, with my forged signature. Caleb's jaw worked. I had to, he hissed. Do you understand? The business was drowning. One contract fell through. Payroll was coming. I needed cash fast. Then you should have told me, I said. He laughed bitterly. You would have said no. I held his gaze. Yes, I said, I would have. And that was the point. He didn't ask because he already knew my answer. He didn't tell me because consent was an obstacle. My stomach turned. So you decided to take it anyway, I said. Caleb's voice dropped. This house is ours, he said. That means I can use it. I felt something snap in me then. Not rage, clarity. No, I said quietly. It means you had to ask. He stepped closer, trying intimidation. Lena, he said low, you're blowing this up. You're making it worse. I didn't back up. I'm making it visible, I said, and visibility was the one thing he couldn't control. The next month was a legal storm. Daniel filed the lawsuit. We got a temporary restraining order, preventing enforcement of the deed of trust pending investigation. The lender froze action. Caleb's business partners started calling him, then stopped. Then lawyers got involved. And one afternoon, Daniel called with the sentence that changed everything. Lena, he said, the lender is rescinding the loan. Rescinding, meaning undoing it, meaning the collateral claim was collapsing. My lungs expanded. But what about the money? I asked. Daniel's voice was blunt. That's Caleb's problem now, he said. They're going after him, and the broker, and the notary, the broker, the chain. People always think they can do shady things if they spread it across multiple hands. But paper connects hands. That's what it's for. Caleb tried to fix it with love again after that. He brought flowers. He cooked dinner. He said, we can get through this. Through this. As if this was a storm that happened to us, not something he built in secret. I sat at the table and watched him talk like he was auditioning for the role of husband who made a mistake. Then I said the sentence he didn't expect. I'm filing for divorce, I said calmly. His face drained. What? He whispered. You heard me, I said, because I can't live with someone who thinks my name is a tool. Caleb's eyes flashed. So you're just going to leave? After everything I did for us? I tilted my head slightly. For us, I repeated. He swallowed. Then his voice turned sharp. You're acting like I'm a criminal. I looked him in the eyes. You forged my signature, I said. That's a crime. Silence. The room felt tight. Then Caleb said something that made my skin crawl. I did it because I knew you wouldn't understand. I laughed once, cold. No, I said. You did it because you understood me perfectly. You understood I'd protect our house. So you worked around me. That was the moment I saw it clearly. This wasn't just about money. It was about entitlement. The belief that my caution was a weakness he could bypass. The belief that marriage gave him access to my boundaries. But boundaries don't disappear because you wear a ring. They become more important. The divorce was ugly. Caleb tried to claim I was spiteful. He tried to claim I was overreacting. But the fraud investigation didn't care about his feelings. The lender's file didn't care. The notary's missing journal entry didn't care. And when Daniel presented the email chain in court, Caleb's attorney went quiet because the emails proved intent. Need spouse signature. I'll handle it. Alternative. A polite word for forgery. The judge, an older woman with tired eyes, looked at Caleb and said, Mr. Carter, did you have your wife's consent? Caleb's mouth opened, then closed. Then he said, I believed. The judge cut him off. I didn't ask what you believed, she said. I asked if you had consent. Caleb swallowed. No, he said finally. The judge nodded once, and then she said the sentence that changed the air. This court will not reward deception. There it was again. That line, the one you want to hear when someone tries to steal your life with paperwork. Caleb didn't get the house. He didn't get a payout. He didn't get to spin a story where he was the victim. The judge granted me exclusive possession and ordered him out. And the day he moved his clothes into boxes, it wasn't a moving truck outside my house. It was a small rental van. Because suddenly he didn't look powerful. He looked like what he always was. A man who gambled with someone else's safety. Months later, the lender sent me a letter confirming the deed of trust had been released. Released. That word felt like air. I held the letter in my hands and stared at the date. Because paper doesn't just record lies, it records endings. I framed the release notice. Not because I'm petty, because it reminds me. A home isn't protected by love. It's protected by clarity, by reading what you sign, by questioning what you're rushed through, by understanding that the person who says, "Trust me," the loudest, is sometimes the person who benefits most when you don't verify. Now, when I walk past my front door, I still remember that cashier's careful voice. "Ma'am, are you aware there's a lien on your property?" No, I wasn't, but I became aware fast, and that awareness saved me. Because the truth is, Caleb didn't destroy my life with that loan. He destroyed my illusion, the illusion that marriage means someone won't use your trust as leverage. The illusion that the house you share automatically means shared respect. But respect isn't automatic. It's proven. And the moment Caleb forged my name, he proved he didn't respect me. So I stopped trying to save the version of him I wished existed, and I started saving myself. If someone is reading this and thinking, I'd notice. That couldn't happen to me. I thought that too. Until a lien showed up on my property profile like a shadow. So check your records, freeze your credit, read every page, and never let anyone rush you with the word simple. Because simple is what manipulators call a deal that only benefits them. And if someone ever uses your house as collateral without telling you, remember this. Your home is not a tool. Your signature is not a convenience. And your life is not something someone gets to gamble because they're scared. Let them be scared. You protect what you built. And if they call you difficult for it, good. Because difficult women don't get moved out of their own lives. They stay. They document. They fight. And they win. When Caleb left, he didn't slam the door. He closed it softly, like he still thought he'd be back. Like this was temporary, like I would calm down. But something had shifted in me that wasn't going back. After the lender rescinded the loan and released the deed of trust, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong, because when a lender pulls back from a fraudulent collateral agreement, they don't just shrug and walk away. They ask questions. And questions turn into audits. Audits turn into subpoenas. And subpoenas turn into consequences. 2 weeks after Caleb moved out, I received a certified letter addressed to both of us from the lender's legal department. My hands trembled as I signed for it. Inside was a formal notice. The loan was being voided due to material misrepresentation and possible identity fraud. The file was being referred to the district attorney, and all parties involved in the origination process were under investigation. All parties, meaning Caleb, the broker, the notary, anyone who touched that closing package. I sat at my kitchen table, the late afternoon light spilling across the wood, and felt something strange, Not joy, not revenge, relief. Because for months, I had been the one scrambling to prove I didn't sign something. Now, the system was moving on its own. Caleb called that night. I almost didn't answer. But part of me wanted to hear the shift in his voice. When I picked up, he didn't say hello. He said, "You had no right." My jaw tightened. "No right to what?" I asked. "To escalate this," he snapped. "They're threatening criminal charges." I closed my eyes. "You forged my signature," I said calmly. "You escalated it." There was silence on the other end. Then his voice dropped. "You're my wife," he said. "We're supposed to handle things privately." Privately, meaning quietly, meaning without consequences. "I handled it the moment you used my name without consent," I said. He exhaled hard. "You could have just trusted me to fix it." That sentence told me everything. He thought this was about trust. It wasn't. It was about agency. He wanted me to trust him after he removed my choice. That's not trust. That's surrender. "I don't trust someone who signs my name," I said. He didn't respond. He just hung up. The next week, I met Daniel at his office again. He slid a document across the desk. "Divorce petition filed," he said. I nodded. "Good." He studied me. "You're steady," he observed. "I'm tired," I corrected. He gave a small smile. "That's normal." Normal. There's nothing normal about watching your marriage unravel because of paperwork. But there is something grounding about knowing you're on solid legal footing. Daniel explained the strategy. Because the deed of trust was voided, there was no enforceable lien. But Caleb had still attempted to encumber marital property without consent. That mattered. A lot. In the divorce, it meant dissipation of assets. It meant financial misconduct. It meant the court could consider it when dividing property. And Caleb had another problem. His business was drowning. The loan had been his last-ditch effort to inject capital. Without it, payroll bounced. A contract fell through. Vendors started calling. And when vendors call loudly enough, other people listen. 3 months into the investigation, the notary's license was suspended. The broker lost his affiliation with the lending network, and Caleb's business partner filed a separate civil claim against him for misrepresentation. Because it turns out, when you forge your wife's signature, you might also bend the truth elsewhere. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. It was from the broker, the one who had emailed, "Need spouse signature." He wrote, "I didn't know it was forged. Caleb assured us you were present." My stomach twisted, because this was the pattern. Caleb didn't just gamble with me. He gambled with everyone. He told each person a slightly different version. He relied on speed and confidence. He assumed no one would compare notes. I forwarded the message to Daniel. He responded quickly, "Good. It establishes pattern." Pattern. That word had become my anchor, because patterns expose intent. Intent changes outcomes. The divorce hearing came faster than I expected. The courtroom smelled faintly of old paper and disinfectant. Caleb sat at the opposite table, suit slightly wrinkled, eyes shadowed. He looked thinner, more worn. Not because he regretted what he did, because the consequences were catching up. His attorney tried to frame the collateral loan as a business necessity, tried to call it a marital decision, tried to paint me as overreactive. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't attack. He laid out the timeline, the recorded deed of trust, the forged signature, the email chain, the lender's fraud determination. the rescission letter, the investigation referral. Then he asked Caleb one question on the stand. "Did your wife give you permission to use the home as collateral?" Caleb shifted. "I believed she would have agreed," he said. Daniel tilted his head. "That wasn't the question." Silence. "No," Caleb finally said. The judge wrote something down, and in that small motion, I felt the weight shift again. Caleb's attorney tried one last angle. "Your Honor," he said, "Mr. Carter was acting under financial distress. He intended to repay the loan." The judge looked up. "Intent to repay does not erase forgery," she said. There it was. Plain, unemotional, accurate. In the final order, the judge granted me full ownership of the house. Because although it had been jointly titled, Caleb's misconduct weighed heavily. He was ordered to assume sole responsibility for the voided loan costs and legal fees tied to the fraud investigation, and perhaps most importantly, he was ordered to vacate within 30 days. When the ruling was read, Caleb didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, like he was still trying to calculate a way out. But some equations don't have a solution. They have consequences. After the hearing, he approached me in the hallway. "Are you happy now?" he asked quietly. I looked at him, and I realized something surprising. I didn't feel anger. I felt distance. "I'm safe now," I said. He blinked. "That's not the same thing," he muttered. "No," I agreed. "It's better." The day he moved out for good, there was no dramatic scene, no shouting, no broken glass, just boxes, a rental truck, and the absence of the future I thought I had. When he drove away, I stood on the porch longer than I needed to. Not to watch him leave, to feel what staying felt like. The house was quiet that night, but it wasn't heavy. It felt reclaimed. I walked through each room slowly, touched the kitchen counter we'd planned to renovate, ran my hand along the banister he'd installed years ago, sat on the edge of the bed in the master bedroom and let the silence settle. I didn't cry. Because grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the slow understanding that someone you loved valued access more than honesty. A month later, I received official notice that the lender had closed the investigation. They were pursuing civil remedies against Caleb and the broker. No criminal charges were filed, likely because the loan had been rescinded and restitution arranged. But the fraud notation remained on record, which meant Caleb would carry that shadow for a long time. I didn't celebrate. I changed the locks, every one of them, front door, back door, garage keypad, alarm codes. Not because I thought he'd break in, because security is symbolic. It's a boundary you install physically when someone violated it legally. I refinanced the house into my sole name, removed Caleb from the title entirely, and when I signed the new paperwork at closing, I took my time. I read every line. I signed slowly, deliberately, because signatures matter. They are promises, and promises aren't something you lend casually. A few weeks later, I ran into Caleb at a grocery store. He looked surprised, then embarrassed. We stood there between the cereal aisle and the frozen food case like two strangers who used to share a life. He cleared his throat. "I never meant to hurt you," he said. "I believe that. But intention doesn't cancel impact." "You didn't mean to protect me either," I replied. He winced slightly. "I thought I could fix it," he said. "That's the problem," I said quietly. "You thought you could fix something you broke without telling me you broke it." He didn't argue. He just nodded once. And for a second, I saw the version of him I used to love. But love doesn't survive deception. Not when deception involves your foundation. After he walked away, I stood there a moment longer. Then I picked up a carton of milk and went home. Because life doesn't stop for betrayal. It just rearranges itself. The maple tree in my front yard shed its leaves that fall. I hired contractors and renovated the kitchen anyway. New cabinets, new countertops, my choices. Paid for with my money, on my terms. And every time I walked into that kitchen, I felt something steady in my chest. Not pride, security. Because security isn't about money. It's about transparency. It's about knowing what you've signed and why. It's about not being blindsided by someone who thought love was permission. If you're listening to this and thinking, he'd never do that to me, I thought that too, until a bank cashier said the word lien, until I saw my own name forged on a document that could have taken everything. So here's what I learned. Marriage does not equal unlimited access. Joint ownership does not equal unilateral authority. And love does not excuse fraud. If someone ever uses your house as collateral without telling you, that's not ambition. That's betrayal. And you are not dramatic for protecting yourself. You are responsible. You are wise. You are allowed to say no. Even if that no costs you the relationship, because a relationship built on deception is already collateral. It's already leveraged. And the only way to stop the bleeding is to pull your name back. I still live in that house. The blue shutters are a little faded now. The maple tree is taller. The porch swing creaks the same way it always did. But I hear it differently. Not as background noise, as proof. Proof that I stayed. Proof that I fought. Proof that my home is not a tool someone gets to use because they're afraid of failure. It's mine. And the next time someone says, "Trust me, it's simple," I'll smile and I'll read every page. Because simple is only simple when both people agree. And if they don't ask, you don't sign. That's how you protect your house and yourself.